Good evening, Professor.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Professor.
Hi there. How you doing, Shabnam? Hey, Katie.
Hi, Professor.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hola, buenas tardes. Hi, Barbara. All right, a few more people coming in. Hung is here and Kalbi's here. Hi, you guys. Just saying hi as you come in. Kalbi says hi in the chat. Hi there. I got to see Colby during office hour. She had questions about grammar writing 1 feedback. We'll talk about that today. Pretty good. I think the average grade was like an 81 for the whole class. That's pretty good for the first draft. It's pretty darn good, you guys.
Hello.
Hey, Vito. Victor's here. So far a smaller group, but we'll wait another minute or two and see if more people come.
Hello, Professor.
Hey, Lydia. Here's Victor. Beatriz, hello, hello.
Hello, how are you,
How you
Professor?
doing? Pretty good. How you doing?
So, trying to understand this class. I'm studying all the phrases and clauses, and I have questions, and
Sure.
no easy
Well,
for me.
today will be clauses and sentences. Like I said, everything gets much easier after this week, I promise. But I
hope
talked
so.
to, yeah, I know. I talked to Barbara a little bit though, too. There are special things that are just harder from Spanish to English though, too. So it'll get easier though.
Can I ask you a question now?
Yeah, sure.
I am in page 47 from the book, the adjective phrase.
Yep.
And one example that they have is the teacher seems very angry.
Yeah.
Why is an adjective phrase? Why it is not a noun phrase? Because it starts with the teacher.
It doesn't start with the teacher. The teacher seems very angry. Well, I'm not going to talk too much about phrases, but because this is a good question from Beatriz. So this is like a early Q&A, we'll call this kind of, So again, don't worry too much as you can. The teacher seems very angry. Remember, where's my verb, Beatriz? The verb is the king and the queen together. It's the most important thing. It's like the center of gravity. Where's the verb?
Seems.
Yeah. Now, do I have a noun after the verb?
Angry?
No.
Nope. Angry is not a noun. Angry is never a noun. Angry is
It's an
always an adjective. And I've got one of those stative verbs, linking verbs, whatever we want to call them, right? Seems is not an action verb, right? You can't say, Jeff, what are you doing? Oh, I'm seeming right now. It's not really a thing. Very is an adverb. So again, there is a noun here, Beatriz. There is a noun phrase here, but it's the subject noun phrase. And then after that, it's done. And we know that it's done in this very short sentence because here's the verb and this starts the verb phrase like we talked about last week, right? And again, for tonight's class, as long as you can start to understand where the verb phrase starts, then you're going to be fine in this class because I'm not going to ask you to identify adjective phrases. But the easy, like the short answer to your question is nothing after the verb can be a noun phrase because we don't even have a noun after the verb, Does that help a little bit?
So I had to look always for the verb first.
Yes,
to decide
that's what,
if.
yep. I think the verb will help. And that's again what tonight's class is all about. Starting to really, the most important phrase of all is the verb phrase. Now, again, the subject is important. Subjects and objects are important in English sentences, right? But really, phrases, you got to be able to see the verb. And then once you can see the verb, lots of things, we can start to understand sentences, right? And again, that's what tonight's class is all about. And I love it. Beatrice is saying, what's up with page 47? And tonight we're going to talk about starting on page 48. So great time for that question.
Thank you.
Who else came in? Oh, I already said hi to Lydia. I think I said hi to Vlad. Maybe not. Alexandra, I saw you come in. Hi there. We got two. Oh no, there's Alexandra and there's Alexander. Yeah. Hi everybody.
Oh.
Hi there. Hi there. All right, it's 5:05. Let's get started. So first, before we start, I just want to say, I know we have many students from all over the world in this class, including students from Ukraine. And right now is a really scary, horrible, horrifying time for all of our students who are thinking about the people that they love, the country that they love, okay? And I just want you all to know, whoever you are, if you're in the class with me right now, if you're watching this recording, I love you, I care about you, I care about your family. You take care of yourself however you need to take care of yourself. If you need help, if you need someone to talk to, if you need extra time, please do not worry. Send me an email, send me a text, okay? I'm not a therapist, but I'm a pretty good listener. And again, we know we have students also from Iraq and Syria, Afghanistan. Unfortunately, we have many people in this class who know how horrible violence and war can be. And it's really important to me to say, for especially my friends from Ukraine, and I am thinking about you and your families. You are in my prayers this morning. You will be in my prayers tonight. And like I said, I love you. That's way more important than verb phrases, right? So I think it's really important for me to say that at the beginning. I don't want anybody to, like I said, people don't have to feel uncomfortable or anything like that. But I think it's really important for me to say it today. And the campus sent out an email with information. So if you need help, let me know. I know it's not easy to do in a big class like this. So send me a text, send me an email. I'm here for you guys, okay? So anyway, that's the real life stuff, right? That's the real life stuff. And it was really important for me to say that before we get started. So I see Alexander's in the chat. Thank you, everybody. So I love you all, really. You are in my prayers this morning. Yeah. And like I said, for my beautiful Ukraine friends, we do have lots of other students who know. Unfortunately, we know people from all over the world at ARC, and we know what it is to suffer, unfortunately. So yeah, after that very, heavy, serious stuff, we'll talk about the not so important stuff, but still interesting, still interesting. So again, but if you feel just take care of yourself. That's the last thing I'm going to say. Take care of yourself. So here we are, week 6, February 24th, 2022. Wherever you are, I'm happy you're here. This was Beatrice's good question. So if you came in a few minutes ago and you didn't see, Beatrice had a question about adjective phrases, specifically one on page 47. So that's what this was about, if you see this in the PowerPoint later. But here's what I wanted to do today. So I was able to spend so much time in Canvas grading Grammar Writing 1. Like I said, the average grade, so the middle grade for the whole class, was an 81%. That's a B. That's quite good for the first draft, okay? If you got less than that, don't worry. You can bring the score up. If you got more than that, nice job, nice work, right? So I wanted to talk about, before we talk, I continue with Language Power Tutorial 3, before we talk about clauses and how they start to build out into sentences, okay? I did want to talk about some common errors that I saw in people's Grammar Writing 1 assignments, right? I also wanted to say, you should be able to see my comments. And then if you go to the view feedback button in Canvas, you should also be able to see sort of my notes, right? So I'm going to leave student view and make sure, because I spend so much time grading. Let me stop recording real quick. Not stop recording, excuse me, stop sharing here. Oh, I am already stopped sharing. Okay, let me, I want to show you just to make sure everybody can see my feedback. Could you guys see my feedback, sort of my notes inside your document, the green boxes, the red boxes, the notes and comments? Yes. You guys could see that? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Excellent, good. I want to make sure just in case, because sometimes students maybe have not seen this before, don't know where it is. Let me, I think I can show you an example here. Yes, okay, good, hold on. All right, now I'm going to share my screen. Now, if you go to grades, this was from last semester. Grammar Writing 1, click the assignment. This is no one in this class, right? This is my example student. And then you click this little blue link that says view feedback. Then you can see it really, really small. But if you click these arrows, you can make it big, the whole screen, right? So that you can see my notes and my comments and all that stuff. You should also be able to click this button right here that just says download annotated PDF. And that way you can just download the file and read it on your own, right? I won't show the specific one, but there was a student who came and that's sort of what this looks like, right? I won't show the student's name, but here, if you download the PDF, it'll just open it so that you can see all my comments, okay? So again, you can read it in Canvas by clicking those big arrows, or you can just click this right here to download the annotated PDF, right? And basically red means a mistake, green means good job, or I have some comments for you, okay? So if you do have, I'm gonna stop sharing again, and then I'm gonna show you my examples. If you do have specific questions, even after you see my comments, right? You see my red boxes, you see my notes, and you go, Jeff, I don't even know what you're talking about, how to fix this. You know what I'm gonna say? Text me, email me. But I'm going to talk about some really common mistakes that many students made right now, so that hopefully you can recognize them and sort of fix them by yourself. And then that'll help you to revise and resubmit. Okay, I just see a comment in the chat. Good. Okay, perfect. I see people. I think people were just saying they could see my comments, which is great. Okay. So we talked a little bit about infinitives and gerunds. We're going to talk much more about it tonight, because understanding these verb forms is really important for understanding verb phrases. Now, I wanted to show you, we've talked about infinitives and gerunds, right? And I've got two example sentences that I wanted to show you and just talk about how people identified this, or how they, identified the part of speech. So in a sentence like, I like to study English, or I like studying English, again, like we were talking about noun phrases, right? Both of these, this group of words, to study English and studying English, both of them are noun phrases, right? They're the object noun phrase. They're the thing that I like, right? They are the thing that I like. So, again, we know that English in this example is going to be a noun, right? But the only thing that many people did is, so when I talked about how to identify something like I, subject, noun, pronoun, right? Like, verb, to study, I said, okay, you could just call both of these words together the infinitive, right? Or I saw some people doing this. Some people said verb, the verb is study, and this is a preposition. I didn't mark that wrong, right? That's fine. If you call that a preposition, I'm not worried about that. But one thing we cannot say is, some students did this, said that the to is a verb, because I think they understood, you guys understood these two words go together to create the infinitive, but we can't have verb, okay? If you understand that, it's better to just have the INF, the infinitive, after these two words, okay? After these two words. Does that make sense, this first example? And then I want to talk about the gerund. So again, to, if you called it a preposition, I marked it, I didn't correct you, no big deal, that's fine, right? But you can't say verb. Let me say one last thing here, and then I'll take questions. You can't say I pronoun, like verb, to preposition, and then study verb. This is not possible, right? This is not a real verb. This is an infinitive, and this can't be the real verb because we don't have a noun that comes before it. I don't have a subject with this verb. So the best thing to do is to call these two things an infinitive. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
Okay. And a gerund basically is a noun. Okay, and you guys know this, but I wanted to show you an example where it was an object instead of the subject. You know what I'm saying? Because so many times in English, we see sentences that start with gerunds, right? Studying English is important. Something like this. Where's the verb in this sentence? Studying English is important. What's the verb?
Is
Studying.
Absolutely. What part of speech is important?
adjective? Adjective.
Is it comes after a linking verb and it describes the subject. And then what is, what do we call this? Right? And what part of speech is studying, and is it a noun, and English is also a noun? That's where, again, for us, we don't need to worry about it. As long as you understand that this is the subject noun phrase, right? These two words together are the subject noun phrase. This is the thing that is important. If you called this a gerund or if you called it a noun, that's fine. But what I cannot accept is verb. It can't be verb studying, English noun is. That we cannot do, right? That we cannot do. Does that make sense? These examples, you guys?
Yes. But can you
Tell me.
Can you say that studying is a gerund?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
If you did this, if you said gerund, I didn't mark it wrong. If you said noun, I didn't mark it wrong. That's fine. That's totally fine. And again, which one, Jeff, I want the one answer. Take a linguistics class. You know what I mean? Because for us in ESL, it doesn't really matter. Nita, yes, your hand.
Yes, Professor. Like if you say studying is a no, if we say I'm studying English grammar, so studying is a verb or noun?
What do you think?
I think I'm doing something is a verb.
Yep. As long as you remember, in this case, am is the auxiliary. It's not the main verb, right? Am is the auxiliary helping verb, and studying is the main verb. And again, how do we know? Well, I've got a subject that comes before the verb. But in this example, I cannot have a sentence like this where I call studying a verb, because I don't have anything to, if I'll say this many times tonight, I said it last weekend. If you don't have a subject connected to the verb, it's not a verb, even if it looks like one. I said this to a couple students in office hours as well, right? So even if it looks like a verb, if you cannot find the object, or excuse me, the subject that's connected to it, it's probably not a verb. It might be an infinitive, it might be a gerund, but it's not going to be a real verb in the sentence. Does that make sense, Nita?
Yeah. Yes, Professor. Like if there's no subject, if the verb come, it will be noun or infinitive or gender. Like.
Yep. If there's no subject, it can't be a verb, even if it looks like one. And we'll see lots of examples of that.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Great example. Yeah, because of course, if it's in one of the continuous tenses, any of the continuous tenses, right? I am studying. I was studying. I will be studying. I have been studying, right? We'll talk about tenses in a couple weeks here. Once you're comfortable with the verb phrases, then we can start to practice verb tenses, right? But any of the tenses that are continuous, well, great, that makes sense, right? That studying will be the main verb, and then we've got all these auxiliary verbs that we need to make that verb tense, right? Yeah. Okay. Last call for questions about infinitives and gerunds. If you have infinitive and gerund problems on your grammar writing 1 that I put in a red box, hopefully this will help you understand how to fix it. Cool. Next common error that many people had: numbers. Numbers and years old, right? Lots of people had number errors. Now, again, go to UC Davis. You can work with PhD doctors and have arguments about this, but I'm going to show you an example. In a sentence like this, my son is 6. My is the possessive determiner. Son is the noun. Those two words are the object now, subject noun phrase, excuse me. The verb is. So I've got a linking verb, and then this word 6 goes back to describe the subject. If we follow the rules that we've been studying, What part of speech is this number?
Determinant.
Adjective.
I heard someone say it. Wait, say one more time or type in the chat.
Is that determiner?
Let me say this.
Adjective.
Adverb.
Adjective, because it's linking verb. It's
Alexandra's got it. If I said, you've got it, Alexandra. Now, I'm going to give you, Barbara, I heard you, and I want to talk about that in a second too. But how about this test? I could say, my son is tall. My son is happy. My son is nice. All of these in that structure, these are clearly adjectives, right? I mean, that makes sense. My son is nice. Well, really for numbers, the grammar, the structure of the sentence, it's exactly the same, right? And that's why I think, now I heard Barbara say determiner. If you called it a determiner, I didn't mark it wrong. That's totally fine, because we talked about, right? Determiners and adjectives, there are many things in common with them, right? There are many things in common with them. But what we can't do is this. A lot of students called nouns numbers, and I understand why, right? I totally understand why. We're like, oh, the number 6, the number 20, the number 10, it's kind of a thing, you know? But the way that we use numbers in the structure of the sentence, it cannot be a noun in this example, right? It cannot be a noun. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons it can't be a noun, but cool. So we can do the same thing here. 6. And then this gets tricky. Is years an adjective? Old is definitely an adjective, right? Old is a word that we use to describe things. Is this an adjective? Is this a determiner? Is this a noun? It gets really, really tricky, right? So again, I was not very picky about this, but the thing that I don't want is this. Now, this cannot be correct, right? Noun, adjective, right? That these two nouns modify an adjective. We talked about this, right? That's not how English works. That's not how English works. So again, the biggest common error with numbers was calling the number a noun, right? That was the biggest problem. So again, Barbara, if you said determiner, I didn't mark it wrong. And again, that's why very often you see this 6 year gets hyphenated and made one word, and then it also is an adjective. So now we have adjective modifying an adjective, which we know we can do, right? Which we know that we can do in English. And the same thing. Here, 3, determiner or adjective modifying the noun, years ago is an adverb. Right? I came to the US 3 years ago. So again, basic rule here, you guys, determiner or adjective, you're good. Just don't call it a noun. Don't call numbers nouns if they are modifying something else in the sentence. Does that make sense? Cool. Questions about numbers? Anybody?
in Ukrainian language we have different part of speech for numbers, for all numbers.
What can you give can you translate in your head, Alexandra?
It's numbers. It's like noun, verb. Numbers in Ukrainian, it's different part of speech. But I see in English it may be adjective or determiner.
Yeah.
How about adverb? No.
It would be hard. I think could a number be an adverb? I don't think so, because usually we would use the number to talk about how many or how much, and then we would use an adverb, like in this example, right? 3 modifies years, and then ago modifies the verb, right? Modifies the action in the sentence. I'll think about that, Alexandra, or look in my textbooks. It could a number be an adverb? I don't think so, but I'll check.
Maybe only adjective and determiner. Yeah?
I think so. Yeah.
Old it's adjective, but ago it's adverb. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I think again, the one that's the most perfect according to US grammar rules, right, is this one. You put 6 here together with basically, this is called a compound noun. Don't worry about this if you know, it's not important. But we put 2 words together with a hyphen and we call it one word. And now that one word, 6 year, is an adjective. And it's just modifying the other adjective. And we know this is really common in English, right? Yeah. But again, also really normal for people to just write how they talk. So not a big problem. Nita, I see your hand.
Yes, Professor. Like years, and what about the days is also like adjective. Like I spent 3 days in Lake Tahoe. So
good example. I spent 3 days in Lake Tahoe.
yes.
What's the verb?
Spent.
Yep, I agree. This is our pronoun, you know, pronoun subject, right?
Yes.
What part of speech is days?
Noun.
I have a vote for noun. Nita, what do you think?
So days is day, night, I don't know. Preposition?
I think it's a thing. In is the preposition.
Yeah.
So days is a noun, right? Days is a thing. And here I have a word that comes before a noun and modifies it, right? And that's what we were saying. Barbara was saying, and Alexandra was saying, this is a determiner or an adjective. I don't care which one you call it, but just don't call it a noun, because nouns don't modify nouns. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That wasn't.
Numbers or adjectives, you mean?
Or adjectives or determiners. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They're
And
adjectives or determiners,
years
but
or
they're
not.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
Well, they're adjectives or determiners the way we usually use them if we say how much or how many, right? But if I say something like this, I don't, not to scare you guys, but if I say something like, how many do you have? I have 3. Well, now that is a noun, right? Because it's not modifying anything, right? So remember, context, context, context. But if you say 3 days, 4 years, 27 weeks, now I've got a number before a noun and it modifies that noun. Jawed.
Yeah, Professor, the at the first sentences that was 6. I couldn't understand about that because 6 comes after is. I thought it modifies the to be verb like is.
What is it modifying?
I thought because it's look at the 6 comes after is. I thought it modify is, which is verb, and when a verb is modified, that's adverb. And,
that's why I was showing you. That's why I was showing you. We talked about linking and action verbs a few weeks ago, and that's why in the grammar of the sentence, the grammar is the same for my son is tall, adjective. My son is happy. My son is nice.
Yeah.
My son is 6. Right. It's still, this word is going back to modify the subject. A noun, a pronoun. Well, yeah, a noun in this sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, because my concern is because they are like far away from each other, and so I thought, and when we like analyze sentences, the word like has like a kind of chain, and so when we modify that like a way that's the adverb, that is noun, I thought they like they will be close to each other, and so it means one word even at the end of the sentences can modify the middle word.
Right? If it's a linking verb or a stative verb, right? Think, feel, seem. Yes. Yeah. I think, again, we talked about this week 2 or week 3. I'm not sure which YouTube video it's in, but after linking verbs, again, the main rule in English is adjectives come before the noun they modify. That is very often true, but it's also really common to have an adjective after a linking verb, and that adjective will describe the subject that came before the verb, right?
I see, right. Thank you.
Oh my God.
We're almost done with this, Beatrice. We're almost done.
So complicated.
We're almost done. We're almost done. Clauses are much easier, much easier. Okay, just for time, I'm going to keep going. If you know, just for time. So not. Some students called not an auxiliary. Some students called it an adverb. Sorry about that.
With you.
Thank you. As I say here, in this class, I am comfortable with students calling not an auxiliary. That's part of the verb phrase. However, many linguists will consider it an adverb because it modifies the action of a clause, right? I will not go to China next year. I is the pronoun subject. Will is our future auxiliary. Let's forget about not for a second. Go is the verb. Preposition. And then China.
No.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Determiner or adjective. Just like our same rule here that we were talking about. Year is definitely a noun. Now, some people, again, I understand. We think about these words go together, right? Like a verb phrase, will not go. Okay, so not must be helping and must be helping. It's part of the verb. But again, and that's fine. I didn't say that that was wrong. But again, most, you know, advanced grammar will tell you this is an adverb that modifies the action, right? It modifies the action of the sentence. So, excuse me. I just wanted to show this to you and say again, if you called it an ox, don't worry about it. But again, if you go to 320 or if you're trying to understand the adverbs better, often we call not an adverb, but it is kind of a special one, you know. Did I see a hand? Cool. That makes sense. It kind of, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Beatriz, what do you think? Not as an adverb makes sense?
Yes, but why when you put it together with not go, why you say that was a verb? So you include
Which one?
not and go at the beginning. You said not and go was a verb. So when you start to, so when you start with that sentence, you went not, go, and then you put it like it was a verb, and you say because not modifies the verb, so you can say that those two words, it's a verb?
Verb phrase.
Verb phrase.
Like we're going to talk about tonight, Beatrice. Remember, verb phrases start with verbs or auxiliaries because you know so many English verb tenses and Spanish, this is the same. The auxiliary, the helping verb comes before the main verb, right? I always say like in Spanish, he estudiado. Estudiar is the verb, right? The e is just, it's an auxiliary. But again, when we think about and look at verb phrases in a few slides, we have to understand that's connected, right? You can't separate the auxiliary from its verb. So the verb phrase will include the auxiliary. Does that make a little more sense?
Yes.
Yes. Jawed and then Nita.
Yeah, Professor, when I was like analyzing my own writing, so I faced with that issue, with that difficulty. And so because, yeah, if not come with auxiliary, like a will, something like a model, probably we would be able, okay, it's included, it's closed with the auxiliary, probably it will be part of the auxiliary, but sometimes not come alone or not with auxiliary, like with is. Like it is not interesting or it is interesting, something like that, or when it's stand alone, when it's stand alone, what will be that?
Well, that's good. That's really good evidence, Jawed, actually, that I should be really strict and I should not allow you to call it an auxiliary because that's good evidence. That's good proof for, well, it must always be an adverb, right? What was it? What was your example, Jawed? It was really good.
Like when it's come with the to be verb, like it's not interesting. It is
not interesting. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Adjective, this is a linking verb like we've been talking about, right? It, subject, pronoun. Is, verb. Interesting is the adjective. Again, just like he is 6, he is tall, it is interesting. This goes back to modify the pronoun, subject pronoun. And that's good evidence. Well, this can't be an auxiliary because we don't have a verb tense that uses auxiliaries. So yeah, in that case, again, I guess it must be an adverb. But again, for so many, again, at 310 level, Jawed, if students call not an auxiliary because they're saying it's connected to the verb or it helps the verb, that doesn't bug me. That doesn't, I understand that thinking, right? I understand that thinking, but that's good evidence for, well, this, I
Yeah,
guess,
it's clear.
must be an
Yeah, it's
adverb.
clear
You know what I
everything.
mean?
Yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when it's come with the verb, and so it modified the
Yeah.
verb. Yeah,
It's a great example. Thank you. It's
Mhm.
I'm really grateful. I should have put one like that where I show you a sentence with the word not, but in a verb tense that does not have an auxiliary. It's a really good, thank you, Jawed. Really good example.
Well,
Yeah, Nita.
Professor, if there is a sentence like which don't have the I'm not happy, so what will be the not?
Say one more time. I heard you
I'm
and then
not
I lost
happy.
you.
Like I'm not
That's
happy.
that's exactly like this example, Anita.
But
I
there is
would
a
be the
verb. But is a verb.
it doesn't matter because I mean the verb it's exactly the same.
Okay.
It is the same as I, am is the same as is, happy is an adjective like interesting, and not is, again, like Joe was saying in this sentence, an adverb. But if you called it an auxiliary on your essay, on your grammar writing one, you didn't lose points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so not desired verb. And M is verb, sir. I am is M is verb.
Big time, big time.
Okay.
This is a really, now again, this is, how can I say this? It's really, really important that you guys start to see the difference. I'm going to make a new slide here. Now, I don't know, I'm not talking just to Nita, but right? Remember, I cannot say that am or is always an auxiliary or always the verb. The verb tense is important, right? This is really important to understand. So if you have a verb tense that needs an auxiliary be, then am is an auxiliary. But if you have a sentence with a verb tense that there's no auxiliary, there's no other verb, then it's got to be the main verb. And again, Nita, like I said, we're about 2 weeks away from talking about verb tenses, but it's really important that you start to, try to notice this difference. When is the be verb the helping, the auxiliary, and when is it the main verb? This is really going to help. This is really going to help.
Yes, Professor. Like the last week we did the analyzing our grammar sentences. So we like think about what will be the verb, what will be the I am like. So we notice our mistake also. We have
That's it.
questions.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Professor,
again,
I'm really sorry.
no, I'll
So by
answer
the
your
time,
question, Joe. But just in case, like Nita was saying, so if a student on grammar writing one has I am as a verb, listening is a verb, well, I did a red box around this, right? Because this is not a verb, that's an auxiliary, right? That's an auxiliary. Yes, Joed, please.
yeah, but so by the time when I was like a kid, like a little, like a young or teenage, but on that time we were like we participate in the courses, like English classes, and most of the time those teachers they were telling us that the is, am, are, and been, were, was, it's a to be verb. And so if I analyze the sentences, I will say I is pronoun, am is a to be verb, and listening is verb, like a main verb, and the other thing is like a preposition or something like that.
Yeah.
Because they like a teachers, this is like is, am, are, and was, were, they are to be verb. It shows the presence of them.
Yeah. This is really common for people with countries who have, I don't know if old British English textbooks were really bad. A lot of students from China and certainly Afghanistan, it's a lot of British English in the schools. This is a really common error, right? Because we get confused, when is be an auxiliary and when is it a main verb? So students sort of are like, I think I need the helping verb. I think I need the be verb. And you get a sentence like, I am work. But you can't do this, right? We don't need an auxiliary be verb for the present simple tense. So that makes sense, Joed. And it's not just students from Afghanistan, right? Like I said, when I work with students from China, very, very common error. Students are trying to put be verbs where they don't need them, you know?
I see. Yeah, right.
Yeah, very, very, very common. Very, very common.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna save this one for later because I want to make sure I talk about clauses. Yeah, I want to skip that one. Okay, now that this little four-letter word is sometimes students' most hated word in English because it can be so many different parts of speech. But I wanted to show you this one as a way to connect and start to talk about clauses and sentence types, right? This is really, really important. So that in your sentence, it can be a pronoun, but let's not worry about that. We can talk about that later. But in most of your sentences, the errors were about, is it a preposition or is it a conjunction? For example, I am taking classes that are more difficult, and she does not understand that I need more time. Okay, one of these examples is a preposition, one is a conjunction. Okay, now before we even talk about that, all I want to start with is the skill that we're going to practice tonight, and that's in tutorial 3, which is finding clauses. And finding clauses means finding verbs and subjects, okay? So in this first sentence, where's my verb and how many verbs do I have? I am taking classes that are more difficult.
Taking is a verb. Taking is a verb.
So in this case, am is it a verb or auxiliary?
Auxiliary.
I agree.
And then
Good.
the
I see
other
in the
verb
chat.
is
Are is
are.
second verb.
Excellent.
And more is adverb. Yeah. And difficult is an adjective.
There we go. Now we're feeling good. I love it. Okay, now we say we've got 2 verbs. Where's our subject? I'm going to start to use the different colors now. It really helps. So my verbs, well, I'm going to call this verb phrase together, red, okay? I'm thinking of Beatrice now. I know this isn't a verb, but let's say these 2 words go together for the verb phrase, okay? And are is the verb. Where's my subject here?
Classes.
I agree. Subject
And-
pronoun. And where's my subject for this?
That.
Classes.
There we go.
That is the subject.
Right? And this is, then if it's a subject, it's got to be a noun, right? It's got to be a noun. I think I should have put all 3 examples on this. I'll show you another one in a second here.
Is the sentence is right? I'm taking a classes which are more difficult or that are more difficult.
That's fine, because it would be the exact same thing, Nita. It would be the exact same thing, right?
But we used which are more or that are more, like we had.
That's fine. That's fine. But they're both going to be pronouns and they're both going to be subjects, which means how many clauses do I have in this sentence? Remember, clause is just one subject and one verb. So how many clauses do I have in this sentence?
2 subjects.
Yes, we do.
2.
We do.
Professor, I have a question.
I'm ready.
Classes no is a subject? Oh, I'm just confused.
This is the question. This is the problem, and I promise I will answer it, Beatrice. Let me say first, the reason that this is so hard, and I'm not going to ask you to analyze this. I'm just going to ask you to understand this when you start to identify clauses, okay? That's the only reason this matters. But the reason that this is so hard is that it feels for many people, even native English speakers, you guys, like there's some missing conjunction here, right? Like, and we're going to see this in the next example, okay? I'll show you the preposition in a moment here. So let's just stick with pronoun or conjunction. I did not forget your question, Barbara. I'm going to answer it with this next example, okay?
Okay, yes.
So to answer Barbara's excellent question, let's look at the second sentence. She does not understand that I need more time, right? Where's our verbs?
Understand and need.
Yeah, Barbara's feeling good with verbs. I like that. So my subject is she.
Mm.
Does, is this a verb or an auxiliary?
Auxiliary.
Thank you. And like I said, if you call this an auxiliary in this class, I will not take points. If you call it an adverb, you're all good. That's fine. So need is the verb. What's the subject for need?
Time. That. Time is object and that is subject.
There it is. Time is the object. Time is the object. Who needs? What needs?
She need.
I need.
There it is. There it is, right? I need. I need.
I need, yeah.
And this is why Barbara's question is so tricky in English. It's really, it's not, it's weird. It's a weird thing about my language, you guys. Okay, she. And again, remember, I'm calling red is the verb phrase, not just the verb, okay? So she does not understand. Oh, excuse me, I forgot a word. So now I've got a subject and a verb phrase, a subject and a verb phrase, and then I've got this word that. Now, in a sentence like this, that is very clearly a conjunction, right? Because it connects clauses. And this is what conjunctions do. And this is what the focus of tonight's lesson is about, right? But the weird thing with that first sentence, like Barbara's question is, it's almost, again, like an invisible conjunction, right? Like there's no conjunction. We get the end of the first clause, I, subject, am taking, the thing that I'm taking is classes. This is the object of the first clause, right? This is the thing that I am taking. And then I get this word which or this word that. Both are fine. But because this is a real verb, this has to be the subject, right? Again, if it's a real verb, it needs a subject. And so we have this almost invisible conjunction. And this is really, really difficult. This is really, really difficult. But again, when we start to practice this, or if you started to do lesson 10 and 11, especially lesson 11, I talked again to a few people who are like, oh my God, lesson 11. We're going to look at it. We're going to talk about it tonight. I'll give you the answers next week, I promise. The most important thing, without worrying about, Jeff, how can this be? How can there be no conjunction? It doesn't make sense. You guys, it doesn't make sense. But the rule that does make sense, if it's a verb, it's got to have a subject. So sometimes words like which and that and this, words that can sometimes be conjunctions, here it's very clearly a conjunction that comes between two clauses, right? Then we can use this pronoun as a subject in the clause, right? And this is hard. This is hard. Nita, question. And then I've got easier examples to talk about than this one, okay? But I've got easier examples to look at. Nita, I see your hand.
So like we usually commonly say this, these, that, or pronouns, you know?
And let me give you, yes, it can be. And let me give you an example. Sometimes it is that easy, right? Yeah. Let's keep it that. I like that.
It's an object.
Right, exactly right. I heard Barbara, right?
Subject.
Right?
Check that is mine. Yeah. I agree that this is a verb, conjunction, yeah.
That's right. So again, we're not going to do big sort of scary tests about conjunctions, right? I'll say this again. The most important thing to me is that you start to understand how these words, especially these words that can often be pronouns, right, come together, excuse me, to create clauses. That's the only reason that this is important in this class. Because again, if you're going, English is too hard, like I told you, PhD professors at UC Davis will fight about what is going on, right? Like what is the deep structure of English? Who cares? You don't need to worry about that. What I want you to think about is, can I recognize clauses, right? If you understand, I agree, okay, that's a verb and it has a subject. She is nice, well, that's a subject, and is, that's a verb, then that's fine with me. That's enough, you guys, that's enough. Red.
So we can say that in
Tell
that
me.
sentence are two clauses again?
Yes, 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 you can. And
Because
again,
the verb and the subject.
you got it. Two
But it
verbs, two
doesn't matter if
subjects.
sorry, it doesn't matter if the subject is before the verb or after the verb, because here is I subject agree. So that's
Yep.
a clause, right?
It is.
But then the second is, oh no, the subject is before, sorry.
No, and you got it though, but Beatrice is on to the only reason that this is hard for students is that they go, well, it is after a verb though, Beatrice, it's after agree, right? We go, wait a minute, agree is a verb. How can she be a subject? But we get conjunctions.
Connection.
Here's where we start to say conjunctions are our friend, except in that weird example, like Barbara's question, right? So again, Barbara, you are right. This is an insane example. We do it in English. We have two clauses without a conjunction. It happens sometimes, but I'm not going to make you worry about it in this class, right? But we're going to what I'm going to focus on tonight and next week is recognizing subject, verb, conjunction. And then I can look after the conjunction and ask, okay, is there another subject and verb after that, right? So Beatrice is correct. There is a subject after the first verb in the first clause, but this sentence follows kind of normal rules of English where we get conjunctions to help us, right? We get conjunctions to help us. So that is some good news. And again, I've got more normal sentences to show you, okay? But Beatrice's question is perfect, perfect question. Does that make sense, Beatrice?
Yeah, but I am confused now with my question. Because
don't think too much.
At the beginning, I read subject and verb, and then I don't know why I saw verb and subject, but when I was reading the question, both have subject and verb. But still the question is, can it be one before the other and it still be a clause, right?
Almost, yeah, almost never, Beatrice. In English, like in any language, we can create some really weird sentences where the subject comes after the verb, but it's, it's like literature. It's like Don Quixote in Spanish. Do you know what I mean? Like it's old or advanced or something really extreme. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. Nita, your question.
Yes, Professor. What about this? I love that, but I need to see more. So that will be is a object.
Oh yeah, yes it will. I'm gonna write that sentence down. Perfect. And now you start to see how this is why the word that is so challenging. I love that, but what was it, Nita?
But I need to see more. Yeah.
Again, great sentence. And Nita, you tell me it's your sentence. Where's the verb?
Love.
Yep. Where's the other verb?
Need.
Yep. Where's the subject in the first clause? Pretty easy.
I. Yeah.
Yeah. And where's the subject here?
I.
Yep. And where's the conjunction?
But.
You got it. And so what part of speech is that?
It will be the object for the first.
It is. It is the object pronoun. Nita, you're my hero. Perfect example. Perfect example.
But Professor, we always need to like look the center after and before they what come after that and what come before that. We realize it's a noun, it's a subject or object pronoun, or it's a conjunction, or it's just a pronoun. So
It will help you again after you if you choose to revise grammar writing 1 for more points. That will be the last time we talk about parts of speech, right? The only reason parts of speech matter now is so that you can understand subjects and verbs, and then you can start to recognize conjunctions, because this is the magic thing that helps us make more interesting sentences, right? Now at 310, most students don't say this, right? Like, I like my family. My family is nice. I live with my family. When we first start speaking English, Barbara's laughing. When we first start speaking, and especially, I say with lots of love and respect, when we start writing, this is the type of sentence we write, right? Really short and simple sentences. But we can do much more interesting and complicated, even though it's not that complicated, but the grammar really changes and the level of your writing really goes up when you start to say, I like my family because they are nice, so I live with my family. Right? Now, all of a sudden, I have one verb, and I've got another slide for this, but Nita's example is so good. 2 verbs, 3 verbs, right? So this sentence, 3 clauses. And that's what we're focusing on now, right? So again, I love the understanding the parts of speech. You guys did an amazing job. Like I said, you now know more than my native speaking brother. You know more than almost most Americans do, but you don't need to worry about, oh my God, what's the part of speech anymore? Because the only reason parts of speech matters to me is to help you understand how to put sentences together. And that's really important because to put sentences together, you really need to understand subjects, verbs, and conjunctions, right? That's really what will help you. So instead of 3 short sentences with 1 clause each, we get one nice, much more interesting sentence with 3 clauses, right? Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
and Professor, what will be this? Because it's a conjunction, and so is also a conjunction.
You got it. You're on it. You're on it. Now, again, I'll probably have to talk more about conjunctions next week just because of time, but that's fine. If we, we can go slow this week and next week to make sure we really understand sentence structure. Because again, so many times, I'm going to make my face big to say this. So many times, teachers will have you study verb tenses, and then when you go to say or write, right? When you go to talk or write and use the verb tense, students don't know how to do it, right? It's kind of like, okay, I kind of know how to say have taken, but where do I put it in a sentence? How do I use it, right? And that's why, again, this beginning is so slow, because once you understand sentence structure, once you understand how to put clauses together, you could do a lot of different stuff. And then you can actually use the verb tenses that we'll study in a couple weeks here, right? But yes, Nita, you're exactly correct. Now I got too excited. I had to make my face big. Yes, the because is a conjunction, and so is a conjunction. And I'm thinking again about Beatrice's question earlier. What's a big clue? Like, how do I know that these are conjunctions? Well, I told you guys, they've got to come before the next clause in the verb, right? I mean, notice we get a conjunction, then a new subject and a new verb. We get a conjunction and then a new subject and a new verb. Now, not all sentences are this sort of obvious, but this is a very normal structure. You get clause number 1, conjunction, clause number 2, conjunction, makes perfect, and then clause number 3 right after that. Right? Yes. Does that make sense? Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So
Please.
in the sentence they say, I love that. that is an object pronoun. It is okay if we say just an object, because I don't know why you say object pronoun.
Yep. Just to make it clear, because I think some people were asking about the parts of speech, but yeah, you're right. You don't need to worry about it too much since we're not going to identify parts of speech for the rest of the semester. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Because if I said books, then it would still be the object, right? But it wouldn't be a pronoun. Now it would just be a noun, right? But it is, you know, that is a pronoun, books is a noun. So yeah. But again, yeah, I'm not going to ask you on a quiz, you know, is this an object noun or an object pronoun? No, I don't, you know, I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. Any other questions? We've got 19 minutes. I can show you one more thing, but I can feel our brains freezing. So as I said here, I think I said this last week too, do not worry about identifying phrases too much. I know that adjectives and adverb phrases are difficult to identify, especially if they only include one word. In this class, I will not ask you to identify every type of phrase in your sentences. However, I need you to be aware of how phrases come together to create sentences and clauses. And as I just said, Jawed, I see your hand, give me 1 second. And the basic definition of a clause, right, is the definition of a clause is very simple. One subject noun phrase and one verb phrase. Yes, it's that simple. I swim, subject and subject noun phrase. Swim, verb, one word, verb and verb phrase. She is happy. She, subject, pronoun, is verb, happy is an adjective. My sister, these two words are the subject noun phrase, works is the verb. So if I say, and then Jawed, I'm ready for your question. If I say all three of these sentences have one subject and one verb, how many clauses do these sentences have?
Can you repeat it again?
If I say all of these sentences have one subject and one verb, how many clauses do they have?
One.
One.
Subject and one verb.
That's it. I'm just trying to get this basic definition clear for you guys, right? For the rest of the semester, anytime I say clause, I mean one subject and one verb together. That's what a clause is by definition, right? So I swim, one clause. She is happy, one clause.
One clause.
My sister works very hard, one clause. See, I'm telling you, clauses are much easier than phrases, my friends. Jawed, I'm ready, Jawed.
Okay, Professor. So honestly, I do not have like a kind of specific question. So just I have a little bit concern about the phrases, because when you right now when you explain the clauses, it's look like a easy because it's like a subject and verb. It will modify the clause, but still I do not have enough knowledge about the phrases.
For this class, you do.
Yeah. That's yeah.
If you want to go deeper, if you want to go deep and do linguistics, Jawed, you got to take 320 or come to office hours. But
Okay.
I don't want to, you know, I don't want to go too fast and scare people. That's enough on it. Like from the way I teach this class, it's enough. If you really care, come see me during office hours. We can talk about really detailed examples. But in this class, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So the only thing is in classes, I find the clue. But in the phrases, I couldn't find any clue or any solution. That's it. And so that's fine. Yeah, okay. I don't want to go deeper.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy that you said that, Joanne. Okay.
I have a question about how do we recognize the while? Like while is a noun or verb or something. Like for example, while working in a college, I see some boys are teasing girls. Like
Yeah. Now, Nita has a question that is about when sentences are more complicated than this and that. So let me show you one more slide and then I'll answer that question because that's what's next, Nita. You're on it. You're on it. Okay. Okay. And as I say here, right, and this is information on page 48. This is exactly where we will start next week. Okay, you guys. So if this still is not obvious or clear at the end of this Zoom, don't worry, that's fine. But this is information about clauses. And as I say here, but even though it is easy to define what a clause is, identifying clauses can be difficult in longer and more complex sentences, right? Now, you guys had great questions, so we kind of did start to look at this already. But for example, my older sister is in the backyard, comma, but my little brother William is working in the garage, comma, and my nephew is running around in the backyard. Okay. Nita's ready right away, right? And then Nita, I've got your scary sentence on the next one, okay? So let's look at this together. You know what I'm gonna say. Anytime we're talking about clauses, we gotta ask ourselves what comes first.
The
It
verb,
starts with a V and it's the king and the queen. That's right.
verbs.
You got it. So let's find our verbs. Let me make it bigger so we can see. Where's our, give me the first verb, either type it in the chat or say it out loud.
Is working and running.
Verb is, okay, but my
Working.
little brother William, working, good.
Working.
So what about the is here? Is this part of, is this a verb is, or what is this?
Auxiliary. I know. It's a
Linking verb.
Yep,
auxiliary.
nope, it's not.
No?
Nope, linking verbs, the word is can only be a linking verb when it's by itself. If it's attached to a continuous tense, it's an auxiliary. We have is working, ing, right? Ing. So is working in the garage, and my nephew is running. So what's the verb?
Running.
Running.
And is?
The linking. Oh,
You got it.
auxiliary.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent.
And there is the determinant and the preposition. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, now I love it. Now Anita's feeling good about all the parts of speech. Let's just do the subjects though first, and then we'll talk about clauses. Where are the subjects for my verbs? What's the subject for is?
My older sister.
I agree. In this class, let's just say all three words. Again, this is the Jawed, your question about phrases. This is the subject noun phrase, but that doesn't matter, right? If you call sister the subject, fine, that's the noun, right? If you call the whole thing the subject noun phrase, fine, right? Because we understand determiner, adjective, noun, but together, these three words are the subject, right? These three words are the subject. And how
Professor,
about,
I have a question.
yes,
A little,
please.
when you say my, I have to say determiner, or do I have to say possessive determiner? Because in my homework, I only use determiner, but I think that's wrong.
Determiner is fine. Determiner is fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The only error that people had on grammar writing 1 is this is a determiner, not a pronoun, right? Yeah, I know you didn't say this, Barbara, but these were the common errors with a word like this. And this is hard, right? That's just practice. It's all good. It's all good. That's just practice, you know. Okay, where's the subject for is who is working?
William.
And if I said, give
My
me
little
all
brother.
yep, all the words that are connected to William.
My little
Right.
brother William.
That's right. And who's the subject for is running? Who is running?
My
Nephew. My nephew.
Got it. So I've got 3 subjects and 3 verbs. How many clauses do I have?
3.
Got it.
And we don't need to say what is the rest of the sentence is in the backyard or.
We don't need, well, you can tell me in the backyard, what is this? What kind of phrase is this?
Prepositional phrases.
Phrase.
Got it. Yep. But again,
Which
we're done
one?
with that.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
done with that, Barbara. Your pain of thinking about every little word, it's over. I told you, it gets easier. This class gets easier, I promise.
Okay.
I promise. Now, Nita, other people were saying earlier, I talked about with Nita, Remember, to connect clauses, we need conjunctions. Where are my conjunctions?
But,
Yep,
and,
you got it.
yeah.
And this, you guys, now, what we'll talk about next week, and if you look at page 48 and 49, and then actually even starting on page 53, if you have your book, don't worry, I'll talk about page 53 next week. But page 53 is going to talk about the different types of sentences in English. And this is important, right? So starting to identify clauses and starting to identify how many clauses is important, because it's going to help you recognize, understand the different types of sentence in English, okay? And that's the next sort of big thing. Like the first section of this class is parts of speech, okay? The next section, the next thing we're going to really focus on, and you can probably imagine, you know, for grammar writing 2, I'm going to ask you to look at your own writing for clauses and sentences, okay? So we've got more time with this. You don't need to feel like, oh, I don't understand everything. We have lots of time. If you understand 3 subjects, 3 verbs, 3 clauses, you're good for tonight, okay? You're good. Now, the last thing I want to say, just to answer Nita's question, is this is like if you looked at lesson 11 and you gave yourself a headache and you're like, I hate this class, I hate Jeff, why did he do this, how could he do this? This is like Nita's question, right? Which is, in a sentence like this, walking down the sidewalk to the local store after work. This gets tricky to ask when I ask you, again, remember my first test, I'll share it one more time before, just to scare you. Verb, 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 right? The clauses, you got to look for a verb. But we already know now, even in an easier basic way that I tried to show you, just because it looks like a verb,
It's not a verb.
And that's the only way that this gets difficult. And that was like Nita's good question. Nita, what was your example? Do you remember? It was really good. It was an ing as well.
While working in a college, I see some boys teasing girl.
Yes. I like your sentence is less scary than mine. Okay, so let me just look. I'll do the scary one next week, you know. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and then we're getting out of here. Let's start with this. While working in a college, comma, I see some boys teasing a girl. See is a verb. I am a subject, right?
Working.
Now, that's the question. Working, it looks like a verb. Is there a subject before this thing that looks like a verb? Is there any kind of noun that can be a subject?
No.
Nope.
No.
There is not. So this, now again, I'm thinking of Jawed. You don't need to tell me what type of phrase, I don't care, but I do want you to understand this is a phrase, not a clause. How do I know? It can't be a clause. There's no subject, right? I would say, Nita, if you do want to know, Nita, I think it's an adverb. I think it's an adverb clause. I think even though we don't have a verb, while is still an adverb. Working in this class, we're just going to call it a gerund. In is a preposition. And like all prepositional phrases, we've got an object noun phrase. But again, and this is why reading at college level is so hard for so many ESL students. College writing has many sentences like this. It's like blah, 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 comma, and there's no verb or subject in that long phrase, right? My scary sentence, walking down the sidewalk to the local store after work. Walking, well, it looks like a verb, but do I have a noun before it that can be a subject?
No.
I do not. All of this, same thing. This is just a phrase that comes before we actually get a clause. And college writing, I'm done, we're done. A college writing is full of this type of stuff. And that's why it's so hard for people. It's very unique to English. It's really unique to English, where you have this whole group of words. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 words in that example before a clause, right? Before a subject and a verb. And I won't, again, I'm not going to make you analyze that stuff, but I do need you to see it. I need you to see it though. Do you know what I need you to see it to understand how we actually put sentences together in English. ¿Sabes? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to show one more. Everybody's tired. The world is scary and sad. So I didn't add anything new in Canvas, right? 10 and 11 are there. If you want to keep trying lesson 11, I will go over the answers to lesson 11 next week because they really explain what I'm talking about with clauses, okay? They really explain that. And I'm going to give you time so that you don't need to worry about new lessons, but you've got your score for grammar writing 1. If you saw my comments, you want more points, revise and resubmit grammar writing 1, okay? That's my suggestion for this week. Revise, resubmit, look at lesson 10 and 11. And again, really focus on language power tutorial 3. I do have a video for that one in Canvas as well, because next week we'll talk about conjunctions and clauses and really start to look at it, right? But again, like, good news. No more parts of speech, you guys. No more parts of speech. Yay. All right, I am, any question? We got a couple of minutes, but any questions before we finish up?
The lesson 10 phrases is an assignment, or that's what we're going to see next class? Sorry.
No, that's an assignment. And a lot of people already did it. It's pretty easy. It's the only thing I have you do to practice recognizing phrases. A lot of people already did it and got perfect scores. Yeah, so it's just practice identifying phrases. Lesson 11 is where you really can kind of test yourself with some of the ideas we talked about today, if you want. Barbara's laughing.
Professor, there was a question about like in the test, the American hate thrush. So it's a phrase or it's a clause?
Americans is a phrase, but the clause is Americans hate trash. That's a clause. Americans subject, hate verb, trash object. I got a subject and a verb. That's a clause.
But Professor, you ask just to recognize the phrase and the verbs. So how we will recognize the phrase in the sentence?
Don't worry about if you're looking at lesson 11 going, I hate this, don't do it yet. I'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
Okay.
One question.
Yeah.
In a phrase can be a clause, right?
No, that cannot be. That cannot be.
Okay.
Yep. Alexandra.
Professor, we can revise and resubmit grammar writing 1 before next Thursday?
Yeah, in a perfect world, yeah. But again, I know life is crazy, right, Alexandra? So take your time. If you need more time, it's fine. On the syllabus, I say, you only have a week. But the most important thing to me is that you learn from your mistakes. So if it takes a little longer, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Professor, you didn't grade my welcome letter. I don't know why. You said in the comment I need to write more about my family, but I have that information that I give it to you. No, I don't have a like.
If it's I'm going to stop recording now. If it's individual grading stuff, I'll look at it. But again, I spent, I think, it doesn't matter, many hours grading grammar writing 1 this week. So I did not have time to go grade some of the older stuff. So, but eventually, Nita, I promise I'll look at it.
And Professor, what is the above, what grade is good to if you don't resubmit the grammar rate? I got 78 and I don't know, I have to resubmit it again or not?
You don't have to. I'll say again before I stop recording, a 78 is a high C, right? A 78 is a C. So it's up to you. I mean, right? It's up to each student. So, some students are like, I want an A for every class. Some students are happy with a B. So it's your choice. It's really just your choice, Nita.
Thank you, Professor. We will submit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. I am going to stop the recording. So again, if you're watching, I will see you all later. Let me know if you need any help, message or email me. Otherwise, I will see you